All right, let's try this take 14.
It's the D3 Datacast. We're back. I'm Zach. He's Matt. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give us a thumbs up if you like this episode. Give us a thumbs down if you don't, and let us know why. Today, behind me, Matt, I've got the Venema Aquatic Center on the campus of Calvin University because today we're having a pool party.
Hey, I'm in for a pool party, so let's go.
All right, so today we're going through the three pools of the NCAA Tournament. The title of this episode, How to Make the NCAA Tournament. We're giving out all the secrets, all you need to do to make the NCAA Tournament contained right here.
Actually, to make the NCAA tournament, the NCAA does publish this information, so it's not quite a secret. But in case you don't like to page through the NCAA's documentation like I do, you can just watch this video. But we're getting all this from the pre-championship manual that the NCAA puts out every year. The one you can see on the screen is from 21-22, but they'll be putting out the 22-23 version shortly soon. It's usually during the season sometimes when all this becomes official, but should be the same as previous years with no worries. And the specific section we're looking at is section 2-3, the allocation of berths, pool A, B, and C. So that's the pool party we're going to have. Let's dive into it here. The reason why they're called pool A, pool B, and pool C is very creative on the NCAA's part. It's because those are the first three letters of the alphabet. And that's actually just the order that they dole out bids. So pool A goes first, then pool B is next, and then pool C is what's left over. So that's just the order that teams get picked into the NCAA tournament. So diving in on what is Pool A, this is what every team wants to get. This is the safest way into the NCAA tournament. The only safe way into the NCAA tournament is Pool A, and that's for your conference champions. We have 44 qualifying conferences in the 2023 season. That's same as we've had the past few years. And 43 of those conferences award the Pool A bid to their conference tournament champion. The lone exception is the UAA, who awards their bid to the regular season champion. What do I mean by a qualifying conference? Well, this is outlined by NCAA bylaw 31.3.4.2. It's one of our favorite bylaws, I think, Zach. On our other show today in NCAA bylaws, we talk about all of those. But to qualify, you must have 6 or more active members. That's a new change. It used to be 7, but the NCAA, I don't know if this was just the Division III level or it might have been the whole association, changed it to 6 or more active members this past year. And the conference must have existed for 2 previous seasons. So in your third year, you get the qualification status. You can't just form a new conference, get an automatic bid right away. You have to go through that 2-year waiting period. There's no waivers to get through that. But then once you qualify, you gain this automatic Pool A bid, and your conference champion can be awarded that bid.
Right. So when we're talking about Pool A, we're talking about the auto bids, the AQs, whatever you want to call it. This is what you get for winning your conference. As you said, the NCAA defines how or when a conference receives an automatic bid, but then it's up to the conference to decide how they want to award that to their member schools. Mm-hmm. And just the way that college basketball is these days, almost all of them are conference tournament, just like we see at Division I level. With the exception being the UAA, where it's not really logistically feasible to do a conference tournament. And so they're still doing it the old school way, we'll say, by giving it to the regular season champion.
Yeah, and we're going to start playing the numbers game as the season goes on. But look here, with 64 bids to allocate, 44 of them go to conference champions. That's more than 2/3 of the bids right there. So that's what I mean by the only safe way to get into the tournament is through Pool A. This isn't the same as Division I, where if you're in a big conference and you're halfway reasonable, you're going to get an at-large bid. There's not very many at-large bids to go out, and Division III is more balanced across the board than Division I. There's good teams that get left out because if you don't win your Pool A, you're going to be on some level of bubble. There's only maybe 5 or 6 teams throughout the whole country that can feel safe about an at-large bid. So you're going to want to win your Pool A. We're going to say it time and again. So looking ahead to Pool B, these are the second bids that get doled out by the NCAA. After they take out those 44 bids this season, they're going to be looking at Pool B. So these are reserved for teams that are not in Pool A qualifying conferences. In this season, that's going to be made up of independents. I think there's only one, Maranatha Baptist, as far as I know, is the only current independent that is a full member of Division III. This whole process takes out provisional members of Division III, so you have to be a full member, have gone through the process of joining Division III. And then this year is a new conference, collegiate conference in the South. I believe there was a split in the USA South Conference. So 7 members have formed a new conference, and they're going to be in that 2-year waiting period in 2022 and 2023. So they're gained their Pool A eligibility after that. So for right now, they would be lumped into Pool B. But in order for Pool B to gain a bid, they have to match or exceed the Pool A access ratio. What that means is how many teams are in those 44 Pool A conferences. It's something like 410 teams. So you divide that by 44 conferences and you get about 9.4 teams per Pool A bid. That just means that we need to exceed that threshold to get a Pool B bid. So as you can see, one independent plus 7 members of the CCS conference means there's only 8 Pool B teams, and that's going to equal 0 bids for Pool B for 2023. It's been a few years since we've had a Pool B bid, and that's why we don't talk about it. We sort of ignore Pool B a lot of the time, and we get that question every year: what is Pool B? Why is there Pool A, Pool C, no Pool B? Well, quite often we don't have enough Pool B teams to actually get a full bid allocated, and that's going to be the case this year. If there's more conference shuffling in the future, we could see a Pool B bid return in 2024. But then after those teams, teams in those conferences gain the Pool A access, they might fall out of Pool B. So unless there was a large slew of independents or a conference that was formed that just never got over that 16 threshold, it's rather unlikely that Pool B would persist for several seasons in a row. We'll see. There's been some conference shuffling in the recent years and months. So we might get a few bids here and there, but looking ahead to this year, it looks like as of now, the information I have, that they will not have a Pool B bid.
Yep, it's something we have seen in the not too distant past in Division III basketball, but I don't remember exactly when the last Pool B bid existed, but it has been a while.
Yeah, it's been a few years. But these teams don't have to worry too much. Yeah, they lose something of automatic access, but they still are Pool C eligible. So any teams that did not win a Pool A bid, that did not receive a Pool B bid, they will jump into our next pot here, which is Pool C. These are the true at-large bids. And come February, this receives a lot of our attention. You know, the message boards, the D3 Hoops hashtag on Twitter, probably our show. We'll be talking a lot about who might be up for those Pool C bids. These are, really interesting to break down the numbers, break down the data. So going through what is Pool C, like I said, these are your true at-large bids. And just to keep in mind, there's no reservation amount per region. There's no minimum, maximum number of teams per region. Pool Cs are selected nationally, even though we'll talk about regional rankings. The teams are ranked within their region. What the regional committees do, they rank their region, and then they submit that to the national committee. The national committee reviews that, make sure the criteria is applied across the board evenly, and then they use those regional rankings to pick one team from each region, that top ranked team, and they compare them against each other, and then they select a team into Pool C, and then that region's next team goes onto the board with the other top teams in the region. So that's why the teams are ranked regionally. That's how the regional rankings are used. But it's important to note it's not something like 4 teams per region get in or anything like that. It's national selections using the primary criteria. So you could have 5 or 6 bids from a region and 0 from another region if that region happened to be stronger. We've seen things like that happen before. And important to note, when we're talking about regional rankings and Pool C selections, the NCAA uses their 5 primary criteria. We talked about it in our video, 3 types of rankings. It's not the top 25. It's not efficiency ratings. It's not just this team looks good with the eye test. They have to use those primary criteria, and that's what the committees talk about. And then just doing our tournament math here, 64 bids. We had 44 Pool A. We had 0 Pool B, so that means 20 remained for Pool C. So a little bit less than 1/3 of the tournament field is selected on this at-large basis.
So we went more in depth into some of the regional ranking criteria in the previous episode, and we'll probably get into it in a future episode as we get more to regional ranking time to break it down. But since we're talking about how to make the NCAA tournament, you can kind of look at what a traditional solid Pool C resume looks like. Now, this is a set of objective criteria subjectively applied, right? But we know to be in the conversation, you're going to have a winning percentage, certainly above 700, yeah, maybe 720 traditionally, and a strength of schedule greater than 500. Now, those aren't hard and fast. What we've seen is the committee at times has accepted a little bit of a lower winning percentage when there's an extraordinary strength of schedule. But if you've got a strength of schedule number that's below 500, you really can't do anything to overcome that. So those are just some kind of guideline that you can do a quick check if a team is kind of on track to being maybe even in the conversation. And so this is probably another good time to plug. We've talked about the efficiency ratings that you have a spreadsheet set up to start tracking. You will also have regional ranking data that we can start tracking, and we'll have a link to that just so that you can bookmark it for the future as that process starts to get going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another piece of criteria that we talked about in that other video: results versus regionally ranked opponents. It's sort of a subset in some ways with strength of schedule. Are you playing other good teams that are ranked in their region, and are you beating them? So you want to have a lot of those games, and you want to have a lot of them being wins, not necessarily percentage, but just your numbers. You want to have good numbers of wins and good numbers of games, and that helps you too. So, like we said, less than 1/3 of the field is at large, and you need to be very good in those criteria to make it. If your schedule just doesn't work out, and unfortunately that means you are going to be on the bubble at best if when push comes to shove on selection Monday, and you don't want to put yourself in that position. So win your pool A and do everything you can to schedule tough, because it's very competitive when it comes to getting these bids. And at the end, there's just razor thin margins between these teams, and small percentage points makes a difference. And someone's going to get left out, and they're going to be a good team. But this is the way you have to pick someone, and you have to leave someone out. And so the committee members rely on those pieces of criteria. They can't go beyond the criteria. They have to stick with that. And they're going to be splitting hairs. And sometimes it seems a little bit unfair, but that's just going to be the way it goes.
And that's also where it helps to know how the process actually plays out. Because you could look at a team that maybe looks like a snub, but they may not have even been there for consideration, right? Because when Pool C bids are given out, the committee is only looking at the top remaining ranked team from each region. So you might have a team that gets stuck behind someone else that just nationally isn't quite comparing across the board. And so these Pool C bids are going out to another team. It's one thing to look at a whole data set, but then you got to realize that only one team per region is up for consideration at a time. And then a team comes off the board, and then whatever region that Pool C bid went to, the next team comes up, and the process starts looking at those 10 teams again until all the Pool C bids have been awarded.
Yeah, that's a really great point to underscore. This is where those five primary criteria come into play. Across regions, you don't see head-to-head and common opponents, those two pieces of criteria, very often, but you can see that within your region, especially if you might be two teams from the same conference and you're number 2 and number 3 in your conference. If for whatever reason you lost 2 out of 3 head-to-head, or you had some common opponents that didn't go your way, in your region, you might slide behind a team and then get stuck behind them because they don't compare as well nationally. So that's a great point. You have to be ranked higher in your region so that you can get to the board, because if you're not on the board, then the NCAA committee cannot consider you. And that's the regional nature of the rankings that comes into play there.
You highlighted the importance of winning your automatic qualifier, that Pool A. Now that regional ranking information comes back into play for some of those teams once it gets to the point of bracketing, who's going to host. But you don't need, other than that, you don't need to worry about it if you're winning your auto bid.
Yeah, they won't be sweating getting their name called on selection Monday like the Pool C teams do.
So there you have it. You want to make the NCAA tournament? That's how you do it. Easy as that.
That's how you do it.
Well, that'll wrap up this episode. Thanks for watching. Again, if you have subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. It's been great to see the initial support we've gotten. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. That really helps us out, builds a little bit of a following here. It also helps on each individual episode. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down and let us know why. But it's been fun. Now we're still waiting the start of the season, but we're into a little bit of a weekly rhythm here, and look forward to taking that all the way through Fort Wayne.